Coming to you from the mobile Hudson Media Group studio, right here in the Uribe compound, this is Talking Politics, and I am the professor, Fernando Uribe. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Folks, if you enjoy the Joe Rogan Experience on YouTube every week, as I do, you'll find out very quickly that Joe Rogan is very fair, yet tough on all of his guests. Whether it's anyone in pop culture or today's political scene, again, no question is off limits for Joe Rogan. He's had multiple guests on, which include U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders and, of course, political commentator Ben Shapiro. So whether you're a conservative or a liberal, Joe Rogan will sit you down, he'll talk to you, may necessarily debate you from time to time, but he'll be very fair. That's one of the things I appreciate about Joe Rogan's podcast. So if you have a chance to check it out on YouTube, I suggest you do that whenever possible. But he discussed something last week that really resonated with me, and it's something I've talked about on this program for many months. And quote, Donald Trump is going to eat Joe Biden alive. Well, guess what? I couldn't agree with him more. Now, of course, we are living during very sort of uncertain and very chaotic times, folks. And my thoughts and prayers go out to all of you that have been affected during the COVID-19 crisis. And of course, my really shout out and big props go out to all our first responders, all our hardworking nurses and doctors and members of law enforcement out on the front lines every day trying to keep us safe. And of course, my thoughts are with you. But at some point in time, folks, when we get back to normal, and who knows when that will be, maybe sometime early summer, late summer, whenever that is, the election season will once again take center stage. And one of the things that the Democratic Party just can't seem to get right is their candidate. Now, let's sort of put this in perspective. Last summer, when we first saw a debate between all the candidates, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, was well over 20 Democrats taking the stage for the very first time. And one of the things that really stood out for me was sort of the variety and the diversity of the candidates. But one thing that they all had in common was, let's be very honest, sort of a lack of a basic understanding of sort of general math, or of course, even Econ 101. And we saw that throughout the debates. And one of the things that the Democratic Party has been able to get right is their candidate. And folks, as November 3rd will eventually get here, the one thing that the president, and despite all of what's going on with the current coronavirus crisis, and of course what's going on with the volatility in the economy and so many people unemployed at this time, hopefully the economy will return back to normal as it was at the beginning of the year. And that was one of the things I've talked about that is a strong point for the president's re-election chances. Not just only that, but the idea that the president's been nominating good, constructive judges to both the federal judiciary and, of course, when there were two vacancies in the Supreme Court during his first term, the president nominated, and thankfully the U.S. Senate appointed two very reputable and two very well-deserved justices to the U.S. Supreme Court. But of course, like anything else, folks, the COVID-19 crisis is sort of occupying all of our collective minds. Of course, politics, still is something that is in the back of our thoughts right now. And of course, it's something that I talk about in this program regularly. So when we talk about today's Democratic Party, let's sort of look at it from the perspective of they still haven't gotten it right. And ever since November 8th, 2016, folks, all the Democratic Party's been doing is sort of like just consistently bitching and moaning about Donald Trump. Listen, I've talked about it repeatedly on this program. He's not perfect. He's a very flawed man. He oftentimes lacks decorum. He lacks civility. And in many instances, he doesn't act very presidential, whether it's some of his rants on Twitter, whether it's at rallies, or even during press conferences. Yes, could the president of the United States be, a little more cordial? Could he have a little more decorum? Absolutely. But you know what? That's not what over 61 million people voted for. And 4 years later, it seems like the Democratic Party still have not learned their lesson. And last summer, when we first started this process for the eventual Democratic nominee, we had over 20 candidates taking the stage in a debate for the very first time. And folks, I don't know about you, but it was very entertaining watching this sort of circus take place on a monthly basis. And let me give you a little perspective here about what the selection process was and what Democrats nationally had to choose from. First and foremost, we looked at a former U.S. representative from Texas who swore up and down that he was Hispanic. And no, folks, his name is not Beto O'Rourke. His name is Robert Francis O'Rourke. He is a guy who was born from Irish parents. So the idea that he tries to sort of pander to Hispanics and Latinos and try to portray himself as a Hispanic is as disingenuous as it comes. And thankfully, his campaign crashed and burned. And then, of course, we move on to a senator from California, Kamala Harris. And let's be honest, folks, if you've read about Kamala Harris, she would have not gotten anywhere as far as she has in her career if it wasn't for engaging in an extramarital affair with former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown. I know that's not easy to hear for a lot of you. And no, it's not sexist. No, it's not misogynist. It's the truth. And oftentimes it's inconvenient for a lot of you, but folks, the truth is the truth. And of course, thankfully, Kamala Harris's campaign also crashed and burned. Then we had the senator from Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar. Yeah, she's a nice, sweet lady, and she kind of reminds you of your mother-in-law, but even that can be unpleasant at times, whether or not you have to interact with her. And guess what? Her campaign crashed and burned too. And then, of course, we had Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts. The problem with Elizabeth Warren, let's be honest, folks, she didn't know if she was coming or going either. She didn't know if she was a Native American one day. She didn't know if she was pregnant one day, and she was working, and then she got let go of her job because she was pregnant while she was working, and who knows if she was really pregnant, because we all know she's never really been Native American. So, again, folks, to no one's surprise, and her basic sort of, lack of knowledge when it comes to Econ 101, her campaign also crashed and burned. And after all of the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the Democratic Party is left with Joe Biden. I don't know about you folks, it's an embarrassment. And for all of the bitching and moaning that Democrats across the country engaged in, and for all of the wasteful taxpayer dollars that they pursued with frivolous and ridiculous witch hunt investigations, whether it was the Mueller report or even the impeachment hearings, guess what? Democrats have done a very good job of embarrassing themselves. And of course, the cream that really takes the cake here is their eventual nomination of the former Vice President, Joe Biden. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to Joe Rogan's sort of analysis last week, he was spot on. The president is going to wipe the floor with Joe Biden. And whenever the debates do take place this October, ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to sort of warn you, put the kids to bed, and if they're awake, warn them or have some sort of parental advisory that it could get ugly, it could get very messy, and it could get very sort of, traumatic for anyone to watch this. Let's be fair, folks. The president of the United States, for all of his flaws, can certainly take Joe Biden in a debate. The Democrats are in for a really rude awakening come this November 3rd. They had 4 years to get it right, and the best they could come up with was Joe Biden. I don't know about you, but as far as I'm concerned, Democrats have a lot of work to do. And perhaps for their own sake and for the sake of their party, they'll get it right in 2024. Because in 2020, guess what? They still haven't gotten it right. And 4 years later, they haven't learned their lesson. They'll have to learn it the hard way once again later this fall. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. On this week's edition of the 3-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, which you can listen to live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson, was tri-state entrepreneur and philanthropist James Barracato. We talked for over 90 minutes, and while it was a very informative and illuminating episode, here are some highlights for your consideration. First and foremost, as a small business owner, James was able to highlight the importance of what the SBA is doing during this crisis concerning the coronavirus, and of course, all the vital information you can learn by going to the SBA's website, which is www.sba.gov. Again, as a small business owner, he's trying to bring some sort of help and relief for his employees and, of course, for my listeners during the podcast, but what can be done during these very complicated economic times. Let's check out what he had to say.
So listen, Jimbo, let's get down to it. One of the big issues that you're a small business owner, and you own a couple multiple businesses, and certainly I think that during this pandemic, small business owners I think are panicking, and to some extent I think they're very nervous. They are feeling some apprehension about what's going on. I know that the president, along with the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, have effectively signed a stimulus package, but it has not gone into effect yet. I know it could be many weeks until small business owners and regular everyday Americans can see some financial relief. But we know that the Small Business Administration has really sort of tried to take the lead here on what's going on. As a small business owner, man, what can you tell us tonight about what you've read about, in terms of who you've contacted to get clarity concerning not just what's going on with your own businesses, but all the other businesses in the area?
Sure. So there's two important programs by the SBA that came out of this stimulus package that small business owners want to try to take advantage of the best that they can. The first one is called the Paycheck Protection Program. If you are a small business that employs 500 or fewer people, If you're a 501c3 or if you're a 501c19, a veterans organization, it's something that you can apply for. And there's no collateral required. There's no personal guarantee required. It's meant strictly to help businesses stay afloat because the federal government obviously knows there's a lot going on. So what the funding is determined by is they're going to take your payroll and they're going to give you 2.5 times a month's payroll for you to be able to get a cash injection into your business. The one thing that's still being determined that the SBA is supposed to be letting everybody know by Friday is whether or not it includes just W-2 employees or if you have 1099s or individuals that do a special service for you, if you can include them as well. And what you're allowed to use it for is you have to use it for payroll. You could use it for rent, for interest on mortgage. You can't use it for principal, but you can use it for interest, and you're allowed to pay utilities with it. It's good for an 8-week period, and in June you're going to be able to apply for it to be forgiven. In order for it to be forgiven, 75% of the funds have to be used for payroll, but the other 25 can be used for rent, for utilities, for things like that. And the loan, if you can't, if you use it for something outside of those means, you have something that has to be repaired, something that has to do with your everyday business, then it's going to be converted into a loan over 10 years, and the maximum interest on that loan is going to be 4%. That will vary, but the cement ceiling on that is 4%. So the best way to apply for it is by Friday. Most banks, there's about 1,800 SBA-approved lenders. If your bank is one of them, you want to go there, you want to have them pull your account, pull your payroll, and help you put it together, and you want to try to get your application. And they're saying that if you're approved, you should know within a few days, and that the money will be there sometime within 2 to 3 weeks.
Without a doubt, James is very concerned about his employees and for all the employees working with multiple small businesses all across the area. And as you can tell, he's very committed to providing up-to-date information and being as sort of accessible as he possibly can. Our second highlight for your consideration is, of course, the excellent policies being implemented by local officials as it pertains to the important shopping hours for senior citizens. First and foremost, I want to thank U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, U.S. Representative Albio Sires, and our North Hudson mayors for working together to make sure that these shopping hours are blocked off for our senior citizens at multiple supermarkets and other grocers throughout the North Hudson area. Again, I want to thank U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, U.S. Representative Albio Sires, along with Union City Mayor Brian Stack, Weehawken Mayor Richard Turner, West York Mayor Gabriel Rodriguez, Gardenburg Mayor Wayne Zitt, and North Bergen Mayor Nicholas Sacco. Collectively, they were able to do their part to make sure that seniors have a certain amount of time during the week to get their grocery and other items at supermarkets and, of course, other local grocers. Let's check out what James had to say about all these local officials working hard for the elderly residents.
So I want to take a chance here, James, to thank our local officials. Again, Senator Bob Menendez, our distinguished county executive, Tom DeGees. James, I know you were an integral part in organizing this and getting this done. How hard was it to sort of mobilize this sort of endeavor? Because this is really, really ambitious to get this done, and it got done.
Not hard at all. I mean, people want to help, especially these businesses. They know their seniors shop there year round. They spend their hard-earned money and their time there, and they were very open to it. They really wanted to do it, and the question at first became, what hours do you dedicate for seniors? And the thought became the best time to do it is early in the day when it first opens, because the store is completely sterilized. Nobody else has been in there. It allows them to get in, get out. The shelves will be full for them. So they were as cooperative as could be. I mean, everybody was as happy as they could be to do it. And the mayors were very, very instrumental, especially the North Hudson Council of Mayors, and obviously Senator Menendez and County Executive Tom DeGees, like you said. So, I think that it is worth noting that a lot of the mayors are in a age group, and I'm not calling it to be old or anything. I don't want to come across that way, but are in an age group that they could be more susceptible to the coronavirus, and they're still out there helping the best that they can and putting themselves on the line. I think it speaks to their character and their courage that they're doing that, because they're definitely answering the call of the people they serve. So I join you, Fernando, in saying they deserve all the credit in the world for that.
Undoubtedly, folks, it was a very illuminating and informative episode with tri-state entrepreneur and philanthropist James Barracato. You can listen to the episode in its entirety by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/talkingtohudson. You can download the episode onto your PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet, and while you're home during this quarantine, you can listen to it anytime and anywhere in the house, of course. And now to some local stories for your consideration. Folks, thankfully, a new testing center will be made available in the North Hudson area in the first week of April. Again, a special shout out and thanks to all the North Hudson mayors working collectively to make sure that this takes place, along with their cooperation that's being provided by the North Hudson Community Action Corporation. And a special shout out to CEO Joanne Quigley for helping to work with the North Hudson mayors to making sure that this testing site gets off the ground and becomes accessible to residents as soon as possible. Now, here's some facts for you folks just to sort of give you a little more perspective of what's going on with this. Now, again, the test site will be available at the municipal parking lot on 36th Street between Kennedy Boulevard and Bergen Line Avenue in Union City. And of course, will operate daily from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. for residents in the North Hudson municipalities, which include West New York, Weehawken, Union City, North Bergen, and Guttenberg. And of course, one of the more integral parts of this entire testing site is, as long as supplies last, they'll be doing their part to help residents, sort of discover whether or not they're showing any symptoms or ultimately testing positive for the COVID-19 virus. Of course, people waiting to be tested can park at the municipal garage across the street from 36th Street, and of course, there will be no charge. Now, the testing site will be drive-through and also available via walk-up, and it'll be the 5th public testing site in Hudson County. Now, currently, there are 2 testing sites in Jersey City, one in Bayonne and one in Secaucus. In addition, there are 2 private testing sites in the Mile Square city of Hoboken. Of course, residents that are eligible for testing at the site must show identification, and of course, they have to prove they live in one of the 5 municipalities in the North Hudson area. If they have private insurance, Medicaid, or Medicare, their private insurance will indeed cover the cost. Now, for those without insurance, they will not be charged, and their costs will be picked up by the municipalities, according to local officials. Now, anyone wishing to be tested has to call 201-366-8465 to go through a pre-screen on the phone and ultimately get an appointment. Folks, if you show up without an appointment, you will not be seen. So please keep that in mind. And again, if you have any questions or if you feel you're showing some symptoms, once again, please call the pre-screening line for more information, ultimately to get an appointment as well at 201-366-8465. Again, special shout out to all of our North Hudson mayors working together, and specifically Union City Mayor Brian Stack for hosting the testing site and for working so diligently with the North Hudson Community Action Corporation to make sure that this testing site becomes available as soon as possible. We'll keep you posted, folks, here on the show to make sure that up-to-date information is available for you, and any sort of new cases are handled quickly and diligently by our local hospitals, and of course, and any other sort of issues are being handled properly by our local officials. So a shout out to everybody working so hard to keep our residents safe, to keep them quarantined, of course, and to make sure that they're getting the medical help that they so desperately deserve during these very critical times. And now another local story for your consideration. A special thank you goes out to our U.S. Senators here in the Garden State, Cory Booker and Bob Menendez, along with our local U.S. Representative, Albio Ceres, for securing $9.3 million in federal funds during this current COVID-19 crisis. Now, a shout out to John Hyannis and the good work he does with the Hudson County View, reporting on this story earlier in the week. And of course, here's some facts to give you a better context about what's going on with federal funds coming from Washington. Now, the senior United States Senator Bob Menendez made a statement this past week, and it goes as follows. Quote, as a former mayor of Union City, I understand the challenges on the ground when facing such an extraordinary crisis, and that the federal government has a responsibility to help local governments during their time of need. That's why when we negotiated the largest ever response package in our nation's history, we demanded that it quickly deliver federal dollars to our communities on the front lines in the fight against COVID-19. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're hoping the $9.3 million secured by the aforementioned federal officials can go a long way in helping Hudson County residents, whether it's establishing more testing sites, providing the necessary PPE to all of our hospital staff, and other vital resources to our emergency responders and law enforcement collectively. Hopefully it goes a long way in helping flatten the curve as it pertains to the coronavirus. Ladies and gentlemen, without a doubt, these are extraordinary times we're living in. And hopefully this federal funding goes a long way in helping our residents everywhere in Hudson County, whether it's those that have tested positive, whether it's those that are awaiting medical help of any kind. Folks, we're all in this together. It's good to see our federal officials are working hard to get us the federal funding that we so desperately need. We'll keep you posted here in the weeks and months ahead, ladies and gentlemen, as to any other additional federal funding that could come the way of Hudson County residents and how helpful it'll be in helping them sort of battle this current crisis taking place right here in 2020. Hopefully it'll end a lot sooner than later.
Don't forget to catch Fernando's podcast at blogtalkradio.com/talkonthehudson. New episodes available every Wednesday night at 9 p.m.
And now another local story of serious importance, and it concerns our senior citizens. Folks, grocery shopping on a regular day can be chaotic, but just imagine how overwhelming it can be for our elderly population, specifically during this current pandemic. Which is why I'm happy to report to you that through the cooperation of local retailers and elected officials at the local, state, and federal level, we've been able to at least help formulate a policy that provides special shopping hours for our senior citizens during the ongoing coronavirus crisis. First and foremost, I want to thank U.S. Senator Bob Menendez, U.S. Representative Avio Cires, Hudson County Executive Tom DeGees, Union City Mayor Brian Stack, Weehawken Mayor Richard Turner, Gumberg Mayor Wayne Zitt, Western Mayor Gabriel Rodriguez, Secaucus Mayor Michael Ganelli, Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop, and Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala for working together to make sure that these special shopping hours for our senior citizens indeed becomes a reality. Now here's a list of our local retailers that are participating in these special shopping hours, and I cannot say enough about how great they are in making sure that this policy also went into effect via cooperation with our elected officials. Now the list goes as follows. First and foremost, we will begin with Acme in Western New York and also in Hoboken, which are dedicating every day from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. for seniors ages 60 and over, for any pregnant women, and for any individuals with any autoimmune diseases that may be affected during the pandemic. Again, these shopping hours are important for them to get any of the basic necessities that they need, and certainly these shopping hours will make a big difference. Next, we move on to the Dollar General in Union City, which is located on Kennedy Boulevard right off of 22nd Street, and their shopping hours for seniors will be every day from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. I also want to thank the Kings in Hoboken at both of their locations, which are at 325 River Street and also 12th Street off of Hudson Street, which are now available for seniors from 7 a.m. until 9 a.m. In addition, the Targets in Jersey City and in North Bergen, respectively, will be available on Wednesdays from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. to service our senior citizens. In addition, the Walmart locations in both Secaucus and in North Bergen will also be available for seniors on Tuesdays from 6 a.m. until 7 a.m. They include the grocery, the pharmacy, and the vision center. As we all know, the aforementioned are very important dynamics when it comes to our elderly population. And last but not least, the Whole Foods in Lincoln Harbor and Weehawken will be available from 8 a.m. until 9 a.m. every single day for seniors ages 60 and over. Now, folks, I really can't say enough about the hard work of our local officials, again, in addition to them, the state and federal ones as well, to help make this policy a reality. And I can't say enough really about these retailers working to make sure that these policies, sort of take effect. But one thing is for certain, ladies and gentlemen, this is something I'll definitely want to take a stance on right now, that when this pandemic passes, and folks, it will, and trust me when I tell you that it'll happen a lot sooner than later, we'll get to enjoy a lot of 2020. So I certainly hope a lot of you watching this today can indeed remain positive as I am, because we'll get through this together, folks. But one of the things we have to do is look after our elderly population. Our senior citizens have given so much to us over the years, so it's important for us to give back to them and then some. So a policy like this, I think, is instrumental during this pandemic, but I would hope that when this passes, that these shopping hours remain in effect permanently. As I said earlier, shopping can be just a chaotic experience on a regular day. Just imagine how just stressful it can be for our seniors who may be, hindered when it comes to their mobility or any sort of access to local transportation. If these shopping hours remain in effect, I think it goes a long way in telling our seniors, yes, you're important to us. Yes, you matter to us. And yes, we want to be here for you. So I can't say enough, again, ladies and gentlemen, about our elected officials working hard with these retailers to make sure these shopping hours are indeed available. And we're hoping, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're looking after your elderly family members, elderly neighbors, or anyone else that are senior citizens in your community, look out for them. Make sure that if they have access to any of these retailers, do what you can. Again, of course, practice responsible social distancing, wash your hands thoroughly often, but at the same token, make sure you're doing everything you can to help our senior citizens. Listen, these retailers are doing a noble job, and so are our elected officials. Let's work with them, and let's cooperate, and let's make sure that we can help our seniors in every which way possible. I'll keep you posted in the weeks and months ahead here on this show, folks, as it comes to any additional retailers that will be participating in these special senior citizen shopping hours. Without a doubt, I think it goes a long way in helping our elderly population here in Hudson County. And as the spring continues and as we approach the summer in just a couple of months, I'm hoping that more and more retailers will be participating in these shopping hours to help our senior citizens, because they are really that important to us here in Hudson County. Ladies and gentlemen, a special programming note, and I want to thank you all because this is indeed the 1-year anniversary of Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe. And I can't say enough about all the circumstances that made this show possible. 1 year ago, when I sat down with Hudson Media Group CEO Pat O'Melia, I didn't know what to think, but I'm glad he rolled the dice and he took a chance on me when he didn't have to. And since then, Hudson Media Group has believed in this program, and I've worked hard for all of you, my loyal listening audience, to make the show as informative and interesting as possible. Of course, it hasn't been without some quirks and some kinks along the way, and I can't say enough about the hardworking men and women I have interacted with during production who have been very patient with me and helping make this program seem as fluid as it does every single week online. Without a doubt, ladies and gentlemen, when I started this program 1 year ago, I didn't know what to expect either. As you can tell when you watch it, it wasn't very good. But in the years since then, I've worked hard for all of you to make this show as great as possible. Whether it's been feedback via DMs on Instagram, messages on Facebook Messenger, text, emails, or even see me on the street and saying, Fernando, we love the show. Keep up the great work. Or Fernando, we don't like the show. This is what you can do better. Trust me when I tell you, I've taken all of that feedback into consideration, and that's why I've worked so hard to make this program as, hopefully, as informative as you think it is on a weekly basis. So again, a special thank you to the Hudson Media Group, Pat O'Melia, and all of the hardworking staff that I've come across with on a weekly basis to help make this show as illuminating, as interesting as possible on a weekly basis. As we enter year 2, folks, I'll continue working hard for all of you, my loyal listening audience, and for you, the fans. Without you, this show wouldn't be possible. So sincerely, I say thank you. And that's our show for this week. To check out all the excellent programming provided to you by the Hudson Media Group and NG On Air, check out their websites. And also make sure you like them on Facebook and also follow them on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to check out the 3-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, every Wednesday night live at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson. While you're home under quarantine, you can download the episodes and listen to them anytime from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. Don't forget to like the show on Facebook and also follow it on Instagram and Twitter. Never forget, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, you know it's always talking politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. Folks, please wash your hands. Please practice responsible social distancing. Look after your elderly neighbors and your family members. And trust me, we'll get through this together. Let's believe and let's make sure that we're there for each other during these very difficult times. I'm Fernando Uribe. Thank you so much for watching.
Don't forget to catch Fernando's podcast at blogtalkradio.com/talkonthehudson. New episodes available every Wednesday night at 9 p.m.